everyone. Another episode of Beyond the Locker Room. Just want to get a few things off my mind today, or of what's happened over the past week in sports. I guess I'll start off with a very sad and tragic story that happened about a week and a half ago, and it's kind of moving on with some very interesting, revelations have happened. The Oscar Pistorius case. Unfortunately, if anyone hasn't heard by now, I'm not sure exactly where you've been living in the last week and a half, but known as the Blade Runner, Oscar Pistorius, who was a Summer Olympics participant, actually his girlfriend was found dead about a week and a half ago, 10 days ago or so, shot 4 times with a weapon that was found in Pistorius' house. He is admitted to shooting her and killing her, but the details around it obviously are very uncertain at this point, and we'll see how it plays out. But right now, it's a very sad story and an unfortunate incident that's happened. So my prayers go out to her family and her friends, and wish them all the best through this horrible situation. I think it's going to be an interesting case overall. I think this might end up being one of the biggest cases we see from a media coverage standpoint. Honestly, I think O.J. Simpson's going to look pale compared to this when it's all said and done. If you think about O.J. Simpson the O.J. Simpson case happened about 20 years ago. Since then, we've had way more proliferation of way more cable stations. We'll see. Hopefully, it's a fair trial and we get, a just verdict on it. But that's all I will say at this point. I won't get too much into details. I'll wait to see what else comes out. But it's a very sad, state of affairs, unfortunately, surrounding Pistorius at the moment. Move to the NBA. It was the NBA deadline this week. Thursday at 3 was the deadline. And there was this big anticipation of who was going to get moved. Josh Smith, Bargnani here in Toronto, even rumors of Kevin Garnett potentially moving, which I thought were very unlikely, but why not? Heck, they're throwing everybody else in, so why not Garnett? And, and of course, the Lakers had a whole bunch of stories swirling around Gasol or Howard or whoever else they can find the trade at this point that wasn't named Kobe Bryant. So there's a lot of discussion going on around it. I would say it pretty much fizzled out, when J.J. Redick ends up being the biggest name on moving day or on trade day. It definitely was a slow day. No knock to Redick. He's actually having a pretty good year, but it ends up being a pretty slow day with him being arguably the biggest move. From the Raptors standpoint, just coming here, looking at it from a Toronto standpoint, I think Telfair is going to help the team. They're lacking a backup point guard. Watching, John Lucas go to work each night, he was so much hit and miss. Like you held your heart in your hand, wondering what type of performance you're going to get out of him from night to night. Too many times I saw him kind of freeze out some of the top scorers on the side. He usually plays a lot with DeRozan in the second unit. He's not finding who the shooter's on the floor. Usually looking for his own shot or Anderson. One of the two of them. They seem like the two of them made a pact with each other about when they get on the court, what's going to happen. But overall, I'd say that it's going to end up being a pretty eventful last half of the season. I think you're going to find that some teams that got off the hot starts could probably use the trade deadline to kind of make some moves to tinker with their team a little bit. I think the Knicks are going to be one of those teams that might end up kind of wishing they did make a move. They look a little listless in the second half of the year. I think when the games start getting tougher, I think the Knicks might start falling off the pace a little bit. I think Golden State might be the equivalent on the Western Conference side of things, and we'll see. I mean, on the other end, teams that kind of are making a move right now, those same Lakers are playing some good ball, and I'll get to them in a second. I think also, Houston's playing well. And San Antonio. In the Eastern Conference, it's Miami. I think the Pacers are going to end up continuing to play good ball. I think Chicago's going to start motoring as we get closer to the end of the season. So those are my thoughts on the deadline and some of the things I think are going to happen in the second half of the season in the NBA. One other little NBA note I'll say is I'll leave it at this. Today, Dallas and LA played, it had a lot of intensity to it. Obviously, both teams were trying to fight for that playoff spot. They're both about, I think they're 4 games back, I think, as of before today's game started from Houston, trying to track them down for the 8th spot. It was a fantastic game. Kobe Bryant was giving you vintage Kobe today, and he was playing with a chip on his shoulder. And I guess when word leaked out about what Mark Cuban had to say about, I guess speculating about Amnesty and Kobe Bryant, as in a discussion he had with some folks that that obviously, stoked the ire of the Black Mamba today. And unfortunately for we Maverick fans, we felt the wrath of it, as he put on really one of the best shows I think he's put on in a long time. I mean, he was everything and then some, rebounding, passing, hitting big shots time and time again during this game. He was just not going to be denied this victory today, and he showed why he's one of the greatest ever. So, I mean, hats off to Kobe, and we'll see how things go for the rest of the season. But a little tip here for Mark Cuban: please, next time you're about to play the Lakers, don't say anything about Bryant. It'll be helpful for the rest of the team there. They don't have to deal with that as well as trying to fight for a playoff spot. So just a little word of wisdom. I was watching the Leaf Sabres game, and there's an NHL thing. And I've just thinking about the last time I actually remember a great NHL team. And what I mean by that, I'm talking about a franchise where it's like, okay, there's a team that people, be it casual fans or hardcore hockey fans, are like kind of engaged in, where it's like there's always an opinion about them. They may be a polarizing team, but they're must-see TV. And I can't remember the last time an NHL team had that type of clout in this case. I mean, I'm going back in my mind. You think about just over the last 30, 40 years, you go back to the Montreal teams in the 70s, where people, love them, hate them. They were a team people had to see. I mean, they had like Hall of Famers going down the list. Edmonton Oilers, the Islanders of the 80s. I mean, even go to the Penguins of the 90s. Probably the Red Wings, probably the Steve Yzerman teams, were probably the last team I can remember who had truly a great team, where you had maybe 4 or 5 Hall of Famers on that team. I'm not sure, and I think it's something that's, the NHL, free agency is great. It's great, all sports, where guys can go where they want to go. But I think, to some extent, just like in baseball, I think in hockey, the free agency moves, where there's so many players moving everywhere, it's made it really difficult for you to find, if you're a casual fan, to really kind of grab on or latch on to a team. I find it hard to kind of get into it. Even in the playoffs, it seems like from one year to the next, you're not sure. There seems to be so much changes going on, where one team, one year, like Chicago is like the team to beat. Next thing you know, all of a sudden LA comes out of nowhere another year. So I think it's something that, the league didn't take into account a lot when they're in the lockout situation, about how to kind of focus on building up the interest in the teams again. I mean, even though they're focused on the players do have to take the majority of the focus, there's not really a lot of teams that you can really say, that's a team I want to watch tonight in the NHL. I mean, there's some great players, obviously. There's always going to be fantastic players, but it's hard to really gravitate to a team right now and say, I'm going to kind of like root for them, or even root against them if you care to. I mean, some of the top franchises that you remember that we have in the league, like the Canadians, are struggling at the moment. The Leafs are always struggling, so I won't even talk about them. But a lot of the bigger name franchises are hurt right now, where they're not really carrying the load like they used to do. So right now they have to build up some new storylines with some new teams, and hopefully the Blackhawks can continue their run, and the Penguins can continue improving, and who knows, maybe like a Chicago-Pittsburgh final might kind of generate buzz seeing them on a collision course. So those are my thoughts. Tell me what you think. Also, I'll throw out a few Oscar predictions before I go. Best Picture, I'm going to go with Argo. Best Actor, Daniel Day-Lewis. I saw Lincoln. He was unbelievable in that. And Best Actress, Jennifer Lawrence in Silver Linings Playbook. So those are my thoughts. You tell me what you think, Oscar nominations or otherwise. Talk to you next week, and have a good week and be safe out there. Later.